quorum present, and notice of this meeting was posted 3 weeks prior to this date. We have on the agenda a guest, a former employee that wanted to address the board.
I've not heard from her, and she's not present.
Okay. If they do show up, then we will make an allowance for that briefly. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that brings us down to the minutes. And I will say this, I believe we do have 2 sets of minutes.
You've got the special call, little short meeting we did last week, and the regular monthly.
The regular monthly was September, August.
The days that-
All right, I missed. Okay, all right, so for the minutes of the regular scheduled board meeting of August 19th, I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on the minutes from August the 19th? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that brings us to September the 8th. That was a special call work session to discuss a contract.
Motion. Second.
All right, have a motion and second. Any other discussion on that
That was solely an executive session, really?
executive session? And then we exited that executive session in order to negotiate the contract.
Okay.
It was discussion of radio funds that I thought that the commission was gonna take up at their meeting
So it'll be next week.
Tuesday.
And that's
but
been
they
postponed
pushed
to
it
next
till
week.
Yeah.
Next week.
I can't speak for the commission, but just in my conversations, I fully expect a lot of
I do
that,
too.
if not all that, to be funded, so.
I thought that we were gonna get something to announce yesterday.
All right, motion on the table. Any other further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that brings us down to the financial report.
Nothing real significant to point out, other than the fact the operating budget is, below what we considered, should be our floor. You'll see that on the 13th, that was 123,170. That was prior to our September check from State 911 Board going in, so it is back above that now. But the operating account is something that we just need to keep our eye on, because we did use a substantial part of that for the purchase of those tower sites for our radio project. As far as other things out of financials, payroll still running high, still using a lot of overtime. We are functionally, at least 4 full-time positions short. I could give 6 to be back to our full, but we really need 4 pretty quickly, to try to cut the overtime back down. So that's gonna continue to run high for another month or 2 until we get some folks trained.
Neil, are we taking applications? How's that work? How's that?
We did a class of 4, 3 weeks ago. So we've got 3 trainees still in the progressing our way through. As soon as these 3 get a little further along, we're gonna start another class of 4.
So you've already got people hired, or?
I've got 12 decent applications
Okay,
on file.
so no need to advertise for hiring, okay.
It's just a matter of getting them trained and in the seat.
Yeah. It's a slow process. Other things out of, trying to think if there's anything else on financial that I wanted to point out that was an anomaly, but I think everything else is pretty much the regular routine. So yes, as typical, we're still negative for the month. So our outgo is exceeding our income.
Typical American family.
But the year-end forecast does look a little bit better than what we had originally forecast. I'd originally forecast we might be as much as close to 50,000 negative, and currently, as long as nothing breaks this month, we should finish a positive 20-ish thousand. So,
But a majority of that you're attributing to salary overtime,
Yeah, so-
payroll.
out of our total budget is 1.6 and some change, and we're doing about 1.2 in salary and benefits.
Do you project that once we get, full staff and overtime is cut, that we'll be back in the black, or?
We'll be back on the edge on budget. I don't know that until we go up on our dispatch rates and increase our revenue some, I don't think that we'll be back in the black anytime soon.
Do you,
'Cause we're just, salary and benefits is eating us up, and we're behind on starting pay commensurate to our neighbors. 3 years ago, when we made the move with leads and everything else, the goal was to get to 12 people, and that was competitive. In that 3 years, the world has changed, and everybody has run up their starting pay, and we're still sitting in the same place.
I feel your pain.
So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on that. Trying to articulate to the younger generation benefits and things that are part of our package. Most of them only wanna see what the hourly is. So,
What I have found is that it doesn't matter what you present to people, all they're looking at is that $1 an hour rate.
absolutely.
Same with us. I mean, our benefits and things that we have, side jobs and extra stuff, makes us, at the sheriff's office, not up to some of our neighbors, but it's pretty decent. But all they look at is, this is how much I make an hour. I mean, I've lost a couple of deputies recently to go make more money per hour, but their overall take home is less. But they don't see it that way.
As far as financials, unless anybody's got any questions, that's all I had.
any other comments or discussion on the budget? Financial. Tell where my mind is.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Any opposed? I'm gonna pause here just a minute. I forgot to recognize, did you have anything that you wanted to say? Okay. All right, I skipped right over that. I apologize.
He's just happy to be here.
Just wanted to make sure. All right. All right, that brings us down to staff reports. New trainees in progress. I think you touched on that.
I kind
a
of
little bit.
touched on that already. We did a week-long class. Just to remind everybody, our minimum training level is a 40-hour telecommunicator class that is a prerequisite to the 24-hour EMD class. So we've got the 40-hour class done. We did that 2 weeks ago. We've got these trainees progressing through, and then in another week or two, we'll go back and we'll do our EMD, Emergency Medical Dispatch class. So those will be certified and ready to fly solo on the phones. And then we will progress along at some point when we feel they're ready, cross-training them on radios also. I think that all three of these have got a good chance of being full-time employees. So we will see if we can augment them in, but it's at best is a 6 or 8 week process to get them fully spun up and going. So we'll get those done, and then we're gonna turn around and do another. My plan is to try to do an evening based and focus it towards a few folks that are looking at specifically part-time work, and see if we can get our part-time pool built back up. That's been one of the things that has kept us down and manageable in payroll over the years, is having a very reliable part-time pool. And we've used up all of those between just attrition and filling them back into full-time spots that become open. So the part-time pool was dwindled down, so we need to get them built back up. So, that's all I got.
that brings us down to old business. P25 system update.
Our bid to, do our tower remediation work, the electrical and grounding of the towers has been, released. It's published, posted. We have a mandatory pre-bid meeting for anybody that is interested in bidding on that project is next week. So once we get that pre-bid meeting done, we'll kind of be able to fill out who our bidders are. And then hopefully, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll, be able to call another meeting and pick a bid. I will get an email out to y'all after we have our pre-bid meeting and kind of fill out what days look good to do a call meeting, to do bid openings. But hopefully we're in the process of that. If anybody wants a copy of that, it's 52 pages, I think, worth of grounding and electrical information for you to have something to read to go to bed with.
I defer that to Steve.
But I do have a digital copy of that I can email if anybody wants to see it.
Is Lee overseeing that?
Parsons needs some light reading.
Yes. Put me to sleep quick.
All right, any other discussion on that? That brings us to new business.
So, we talked about this several months ago, and it was tabled at that point. Our nighttime staffing level is, without being dramatic, gotten to a point of being critical. So we've got to do something to try to appeal to some people to work at night. I worked every night last weekend myself, just to try to keep spots filled, which I don't mind doing occasionally, but I can't do it all the time and try to keep on my other stuff too. So this is a draft of something that I put together, just to try to get us commensurate with what some other places do. It also has a holiday rate. The old calculation of our ETO was considered that it took care of holiday time, but I think that is antiquated at this point. So I'd like for y'all to look at and see what the feel of the board is to do. I've got this as a draft of $1 an hour, just to make the math easy. So last month, or last pay period, $1 an hour to everybody that worked from 10P to 6A would have cost us a total of $387. If we did it at $1.50, it would be $581. If we did it at $2, it would be $775.
You're talking about differential.
That's just a extra on top of their hourly for those hours from 10P to 6A. So if you're willing to work at night, you get an extra, if we do it at $1 an hour, $8. Just to try to.
That's an 8-hour shift.
It's a 12-hour shift, but the shift only pays on the 10 to 6 hours, which is what we're struggling to get people to cover. There are several hospitals and other entities that do a shift if pay. Accountant doesn't have a problem with getting it factored into their work. Alex didn't see a problem with doing it from anything on his side.
I don't have an issue in theory. My issue is that we're currently over budget in salaries and those kind of things in your previous statement. And, I mean, it's difficult for me to.
But part of the reason we are over budget is paying overtime to the people that are willing to do it. We got, our night shift people are basically working, some of them,
Double.
3 or 4 extra shifts per pay period.
So when we get the ones that you've trained on board, then that overtime rate will,
That is the hope.
So-
That is the theoretical, that once we get the numbers back right, the overtime rate can go back down.
So, since we're talking theoretical, if that doesn't seem to work and those people still don't wanna do it, the ones that are continuing to do it get an additional $1 per hour
Plus overtime.
plus overtime.
Mhm.
Where do I get an application?
Two of
my,
Two of the vacancies are part-timers that went full-time on night shift and dropped back to part-time within 3 months. Because night shift is difficult. Just to give the ones that are consistently willing to do it a little bit extra. So out of the full staff, there's, not counting myself and Heidi and Chris, 26. Of the 26 total staff, 11 worked any hours in that span. So the hope is to give them something to make those nighttime hours appealing to the ones that are currently not helping with the nighttime hours.
all right, so let me ask you this. As far as scheduling, do you have rotating schedules? Is it done by seniority?
It is done mostly by preference, when that is reasonable. But basically, the new employees get stuck on night shift until a day shift spot opens,
So we are doing it by seniority.
to some extent. Can't be completely by seniority, or I'd have a bunch of rookies working night shift and no experience. So, can't
You
be.
got supervisors?
Yes,
One supervisor per shift or whatever? or-
one shift lead per shift.
Do you have any type of rotation now that would rotate 6 months?
No. I've got quite a few day shifts that would probably quit if we told them they had to work a night shift.
This scenario is becoming pretty common. I serve on another board and it was pretty classic
So
for the same amount.
they need $1.
Oh,
So if the dollar is what we wanted to do, 387.84 is what it would have cost us last pay period, times 26 pay periods, it's about 11,000 a year. It's about an $1,800 bump for the ones that consistently work night shift.
Well, personally, I don't believe it would be in the best interest to do both proposals, the differential and the holiday pay currently, until we see where our budget is. I mean, that's just Brandon's opinion. It's not a matter that they don't deserve it and I want them to have it, but with all the overtime, if we're already going significantly in the red with salaries, until we see a transition, I don't know that we could offer a holiday rate until we can show that this overtime's, we gotta handle an overtime.
Do we pay time and a half or whatever for holiday pay? We don't have a holiday pay at all.
Because once we start it, we can't back up from it. And, I mean, that's my,
That's
somebody
one
works
reason
on-
that none of the part-timers will work holidays.
So somebody works on Christmas, they just make their normal hours. They don't get paid a holiday pay.
And there's very few of the part-time staff that will augment and help on the holidays.
Cleveland's the same way, don't it? If you get called out on a holiday, it's not hard.
you know, and it could be something that now, we can set our own holiday schedule, Thanksgiving, Christmas, to start off with. I mean, we don't have to have state-recognized holidays. We can set our
The
own.
current holidays that we recognize are listed here: New Year's Eve and Day, Easter Sunday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve and Day are the only things we consider holidays.
Well, if we don't have a holiday rate,
ago that we blocked off that you can't take vacation days on holidays.
That makes sense.
So that's what we have long-standing called our holidays.
So a question too, if it's, the individual is working a holiday night, does the other dollar an hour kick in with that also?
And we,
So they would get holiday pay and $1 an hour to work night shift.
But not a dollar an hour and a half, $1.50 hour.
I would,
no, the dollar would not time and a half.
no.
It is just, that is a flat rate.
That's commensurate to a hazardous duty pay, $1 per hour for the hours that you work.
Yeah, it's a flat rate.
That's just to work night shift, right?
It's just,
And you
just for
said-
anything between 10 p and 6 a.
And you said $1 an hour would have what'd you say, 5 8? 3,
387.84 is what $1 an hour would have cost the last pay period. With the majority of that going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people.
all right, so you said 5 people, so you had 5 on shift that night.
No, that's for the whole pay period. That's 387 for the whole pay period. And this may not be the answer, but we've gotta come up with something to do some recruitment and retention, because we're getting left in the dust staffing wise, and I am really worried about what November and December are gonna look like when everybody wants to take off and do holiday stuff. I've got several more nights this month that there's only 2 people on shift, and I'm gonna have to do some required overtime and work it myself.
Just out of curiosity, how come we don't have set shifts, set schedules?
We do.
Cause like for us, if you're on your set schedule, if it falls on your weekend to work and it's Christmas, you just work Christmas, you don't get a choice.
Correct. That is the current.
So why are we having a hard time getting people to work holiday?
Because we're short staffed. My night shift should have 4 on each shift, and I've got 2 on each shift because I've had some quit.
So if we had permanent staffing on those shifts,
When
it
we're-
wouldn't be a question.
When we're back to normal, we'll be okay.
That ain't okay. Well, that kinda leads me back to if we do the $1 an hour night shift pay differential, we reduce overtime and hopefully give an incentive to have full pool at night. That would allow us to come back and revisit this holiday thing a little bit later.
So, they're not a package deal. They're just 2 things that I'm throwing out there to consider.
If somebody works in that night instead of working days, and I looking at that right, you're gonna get $8 extra to work night.
For one shift.
If you do it once in a while, it probably doesn't help anybody that much. For the ones that do it consistently, it's gonna be about 1,800 a year worth.
On a regular basis, that's actually what you're looking for, not somebody like to fill in for that night shift.
Correct.
Cause it's like $8 is just not enticing enough to work that.
No, I'd give you more than, I'd give you 16, not that, ask me to.
Yeah.
But for the ones that do it consistently, it'll be a cumulative effect to try to make it a little more worth it.
Alright.
make a motion for $1 an hour for night shift.
Well, we're gonna table the, holiday pay.
Yeah, well, as long as there's not a motion on a holiday pay, we can table
Okay.
that or at least bring it back up.
So this proposal is just, would be
Yeah,
two
This
motions.
is just for the night shift differential.
Okay,
Two individual things, they don't have to be a package.
I'll second the not differential.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Alright. So that's a $1 differential for night pay from the hours of, you said 10 to 6?
10 to 6 days.
When does that go into effect?
We put it into effect this pay period.
When's the new fiscal year start? October 1?
Yeah.
To be clean, why don't we start October 1?
And that's not that, that's,
2 weeks.
I know,
okay.
to be clean, we'll start a fiscal year. That way we can, alright. Alright, that brings us down to our next item of board member comments.
I don't know, with the lawyer not here, what the legalities are when it comes to executive session.
Okay.
But I do have something I'd like to discuss that would involve good name and character.
Alright, if that is the case, what we have to do is suspend the rule, vote to suspend the rule, and then vote to amend the agenda to go into executive session. And then we'd have to vote to go into executive session. So there's 3 steps in order to do that.
Okay.
A good name and character of an employee, member of the board.
An employee, a former employee.
Okay, alright. Alright, so first what we'd have to do is vote, have a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
Have a second. Any other discussions? All that in favor? Any opposed? Alright, next thing would be to vote to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing good name and character of an employee.
Motion.
Alright, have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Alright, we'll enter into executive session at